Good evening. Tonight's review is a Canadian whiskey, and I haven't reviewed a lot of Canadian whiskeys, primarily because I'm fascinated by Scotch whiskey, and I am at heart a Scotch fan. There's something about malted barley that produces whiskeys with tremendous complexity. Nevertheless, Canadian whiskey can present some good value for money and complexity at times. But when you think of Canadian whiskey and you think of Scotch whiskey, they're really two different categories with very different flavor profiles. Now, tonight, I felt like something contemplative, simple, and easy on the pocketbook. So I went to the liquor store and picked up a recently launched whiskey, just came out last year. It's Canadian Club Chairman Select 100% Rye. And this cost $27 in Canada. It's initially launched in Canada. I presume they're going to release it in the US. Canadian Club, the brand is owned by Beam Suntory. Beam Global used to own the brand, and then they sold out to Suntory, or there was an amalgamation. In any case, this whiskey is affordable, 40% alcohol by volume. There is no age statement on it, but if you read online, do a bit of research, the component whiskeys making up this Canadian whiskey, which is a blend, by the way, is about 7 years old. The whiskeys are aged for 7 years. Canadian whiskey is the top-selling spirit in the United States. Outsells everything else in the US. And why does the American public like Canadian whiskey so much? Probably a lot of it has to do with the fact that it is a style of drink that consumers like. Tends to be light, tends to be easy drinking, smooth, and often sweet. In the past, Canadian whiskey tended to be more designed to be mix for cocktails, but there's been a renaissance in Canadian whiskey as a category, and now a lot more interesting releases are coming out at higher price points too. Just as there's been a bit of a resurgence in popularity in American whiskey, bourbon in Tennessee, and even whiskeys not falling into those categories within the US. There is also a renewed enthusiasm and interest in Canadian whiskey that goes beyond simply being mix. Goes beyond simply being Crown Royal or the standard Canadian Club or Black Velvet that you would generally use as mix. So this is 100% rye whiskey. It's $27. And the question is it good value for money? Is it a decent drink? On the nose, it is floral. I mean, a bit of roses. I really wouldn't say rye. It's more I nose damp earth. I feel like the scent of air, kind of damp air after a rainfall in a forest. Wet leaves that you're walking over on a trail. That's what I'm picking up. Not unpleasant, pretty good, but not phenomenal. You got to remember the price point too, right? The taste of this whiskey is definitely, you're tasting like rye bread. It's initially sweet. Cinnamon plays a big role in this flavor profile. The taste of cinnamon. Cloves. Very clean oak. Big rye bread. The finish is blackened toast with some honey. Very cleansing, a little bit tingling. Not hot though, not burning. In no way offensive. very smooth, very drinkable, balanced, no bitterness, no bite. A good place to start if you don't know anything about Canadian whiskey, or whiskey period as a category, and you want to understand the fascination with drinking whiskey straight. You know, having a little bit without ice, or maybe even without water or mix. This is a good place to start. It's 100% rye whiskey, but it's not overly spicy or biting, and it's not a rye style as you would find in the US, like coming out of bourbon territory. The finish is ginger, blackened toast with honey. This is good. It's distilled in Alberta by Alberta Distillers, which is owned by Beam Suntory. It's distilled at the same place that produces Dark Horse by Alberta Premium, which is another good Canadian whiskey that I think is $2 more a bottle. This is very good value for money. It's balanced, it's not offensive, no bite, no graininess, no complaints. Highly recommended. Canadian Club, Chairman Select, 100% rye, worth a try. For $27, you cannot go wrong. In the Scotch category, the equivalent would be, in terms of price and value for money, White Horse. This is very good. Cheers, and thanks for tuning in.